Welcome back to the David Pakman Show. I am Farron Cousins from Ring of Fire and Fair and Balance, sitting in for David Pakman once again today. And folks, I don't know if you know this, but we had a big football match on Sunday. It was super. No, seriously though, the Super Bowl was, of course, Sunday evening. Kind of a lackluster game, depending on who you were going for, but just in general, if you weren't going for either team, just wanted to see a good game, you saw a blowout. But that's not what I want to talk about right now. What I want to talk about is the fact that, of course, the President of the United States, on the taxpayer's dime, attended the Super Bowl in New Orleans. He did not have a good time. In fact, he left the game early. It was a bit of a blowout. But he left the game early to get on Truth Social to attack Taylor Swift. And, of course, to attack pennies in a separate post. But anyway, Donald Trump got on Truth Social following his early departure from the Super Bowl on Sunday and had this to say. The only one that had a tougher night than the Kansas City Chiefs was Taylor Swift. She got booed out of the stadium. MAGA is very unforgiving. So in case you're not familiar with what happened, Taylor Swift inside the stadium was shown on the Jumbotron at one point, and yes, members of the crowd booed. Just like when Donald Trump was introduced at the game, members of the crowd booed. I noticed he didn't put that little factoid in his Truth Social post, but Taylor Swift did get booed. Now, she didn't, as Trump said, get booed out of the game. There were some people in the audience who booed her. Maybe they were MAGA, or maybe, far more likely scenario here, they knew that Taylor Swift, a former Philadelphia Eagles fan, was pulling for the Chiefs. And they, the people booing, wanted the Eagles to win. So it would make sense for the people booing, not because of her political beliefs, but because she was going for the opposing team, and they don't like that. If you've ever been to literally any live professional sporting event, that's what happens with the other team. When the other team runs out onto the field or onto the basketball court, they get booed by the home team. So when you take an event like the Super Bowl and you got a lot of Eagles fans down there, they booed her because she's basically part of the Chiefs. That's a very simple explanation and the most logical explanation of what happened. But what Trump also doesn't realize is that just a couple months ago, for several nights in a row, Taylor Swift packed the Superdome in New Orleans as part of her concert tour. It was so loud that you could feel the shaking of the stadium outside the stadium. Do you know how I know that? Do I have to actually admit it? I was there. So, trust me, Taylor Swift doesn't have any issue with the people in New Orleans hating her. They showed very clearly for, again, several nights in a row that they absolutely loved her. You, on the other hand, Donald Trump, you got booed. You didn't mention that. You've been booed at every sporting event that you've gone to by at least some group of people. So, again, not uncommon. But here's what gets me about this whole thing. This man, this geriatric president of the United States, most powerful person on the planet, next to Elon Musk apparently, but decided to get on his social media outlet and attack one of the biggest pop stars the planet's ever seen. Why? Because he's mad she endorsed Vice President Kamala Harris instead of him. Still. Even though he won. That's how petty he is. That's how small he is. That's how disturbed he is. Like, we should demand better from our leaders. We don't want vengeful, petty little troglodytes running the country. Or at least we shouldn't. But that is apparently what we have. Now, as I mentioned, he also went on a tear about pennies a little while later, right? Like, I've attacked Taylor Swift, now let me go after the pennies. And he said that he was going to abolish pennies because it does actually cost more to make a penny than a penny is worth. So maybe in the near future, we're going to have the abolition of pennies in the United States, which economists actually say would not be a smart move because it could cause rapid, sudden inflation, because prices would have to be rounded up because you wouldn't be able to give pennies as So it's a weird thing, but it's also a weird random thing for him to suddenly get mad about. It was weird for him to be mad about Taylor Swift, but it's even weirder to be mad at pennies. I mean, did somebody give him some change after he bought concessions and he was like, get rid of these forever for everyone? I don't know. But all I do know is that based on his attitude after leaving the game and the fact that he endorsed the Chiefs to win, Trump did not have a very super football Sunday.
Once again, Donald Trump's cabinet picks are all about loyalty over expertise. Election denier Kari to lead Voice of America, the government-funded broadcaster meant to report unbiased news. Ground News found hundreds of articles covering this story, which is an app I've trusted for years to help me critically analyze the news I consume. Our sponsor, Ground News, doesn't tell you what to think. They show you each news outlet's biases, credibility, financial incentives, so you know who's benefiting from the spin they put on each story. You can even filter out certain sources you don't want, so you can stay informed without getting buried in the noise. Trump is shaping our future in ways that will last decades. And if we're not paying attention, we will allow history to repeat itself. So stay engaged with Ground News, who is fixing what is breaking right in front of us, the trust and transparency in the media. Ground News is giving my audience 50% off the same Vantage plan that I use. Go to ground.news/Pacman. The link is in the description, or scan my QR code.